All right, so this Knife Thoughts video is going to be a full review of the Asher Knife Company Picket. And I got this knife a little while back and have been carrying and using it, so I wanted to do a review. And the reason I got this knife is because I have been seeing Asher knives on Reddit in particular, and then a little bit on Instagram, and was really interested. I saw Asher knives a while back on Reddit, looked them up, and to be honest, thought they might be a little bit too good to be true because of the materials that were used, considering the price. So I saw things like G10 and S35 VN for, $50, $60, $70, things like that. And that seemed pretty inexpensive. I hadn't heard of the brand at all, and so I didn't, actually order one initially. Then I saw them on Reddit again and saw that someone said that they were from Pittsburgh. Now, I am from around Pittsburgh and, have gone to school there and worked there and things like that. So I was interested, and I went to their Instagram and confirmed that they are designed in Pittsburgh. The company is from Pittsburgh. So I decided I wanted to check them out. The other thing is that this Picket, which was the one I saw most recently, really, really, resonated with me from a design standpoint. So I actually messaged them on Instagram, and the owner of the company messaged back and answered some questions and such. And these knives are made in China. There is a sticker on the box that says so. And that makes sense, being that they are relatively inexpensive. This Picket knife is about $50, around there, and has good materials. Like I said, this is natural G10 or jade G10, and the blade is S35 VN. But like I said, what really drew me to this is the design. So this is like a modern version of a traditional knife. It has some of those traditional aesthetics, like a very classic spear point style blade with a cut swedge, or somewhere between a cut and drawn swedge. It even has what's basically a long pull on the blade here, and then a traditional type handle shape like a jackknife, almost like a copperhead or like a copperhead Barlow. I hate to call anything that doesn't have a bolster a Barlow, but people seem to be doing it. So I'd say it's more of like a copperhead or a jackknife, but really like the look of the design, so I wanted to try it out. Now, the first thing is that it looks just as good in person as I thought it did online. I really like this handle shape. It's a very, very simple, classic, again, copperhead type handle shape that is really ergonomic for my hand. It's a little bigger, the knife and the handle, than I was expecting from the specs. It ends up being a pretty good size knife, kind of a full size knife, I think, for most people. But if you watch my channel, you know that I think a simple handle makes for an ergonomic handle, and that's certainly the case here. This turn of a little guard of the handle goes right into the flipper tab and makes it so it stops your finger there, but it's not uncomfortable, and this really simple handle shape makes it so I can get a full 4-finger grip on this, and it feels good in the hand. And part of that is that this is actually relatively well sculpted. It's not just a flat handle like a lot of knives. It has some sculpting to it. So I do appreciate that. I appreciate how good it feels in the hand, and it's kind of an interesting look. What's going on here with the darker spots is that those are the liners, and the liners are a little bit of an interesting shape. They get thinner towards this area, I suppose, for lightness, and then it has the liner for the liner lock over on this side. But moving on to the blade, like I said, super classic spear point style blade. It looks really great, and not only does the blade shape, this classic spear point, look good, but it also works really well. It's ground relatively thin, slices really well, and by relatively I mean maybe a little thicker than a traditional knife like a GEC in particular might be, but pretty thin compared to most modern knives. So I really appreciate that. It makes it cut really well. And being that it's S35 VN, you're not going to have to worry about having to sharpen it super frequently. But when you do have to sharpen it, S35 VN is generally pretty easy to sharpen. I only really touched this knife up because I didn't need to do a whole lot more, but it cut really well for me. I use this for food prep and things like that, food prep, EDC type stuff like cutting boxes, and it did really well. The action on this is really nice. It has ball bearings, and you can see it's drop smooth. I have not adjusted this at all. It came like this. It came real close to perfectly centered. Maybe not like literal 100% perfect, but pretty darn close, about as close as it gets. And it uses a light switch style flipping action and flips really nicely. It has a very crisp detent, as you can see. So happy with the action. Really, really well done on the action. And speaking of that, I don't know who makes these. It doesn't strike me at all, even in the slightest, as a Civivi or, you know, a Kaiser even, you know, as the OEM. So I don't really know who makes these. I did ask, and I don't think that the owner of the company said. But if you know, get a certain vibe from this knife of some, you know, Chinese manufacturer, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on that. I'm not real sure who makes these, but they have done a pretty darn good job. The one thing about this knife that I don't think is perfect, really, I really have enjoyed carrying and using this knife. I think that it's a really nice knife. The one thing that I would change is that this clip, which seems to be kind of I haven't seen other clips like this. I don't know, maybe I just haven't seen the knives that have a clip like this, but I'm not familiar with a clip like this. It's a little overkill in this bent area here, so that it is a little tougher than I would like to get the knife out of your pocket. It's actually not too difficult to put in your pocket, maybe more so than a lot of knives, but because these turns here of the bend are so abrupt, it is a little harder to get out of the pocket. And so I think I would make this turn a little bit less abrupt. But beyond that, I really have no complaints about this knife. I've considered dyeing it. I might dye it blue or something like that, but really happy with this knife. I think that it's a really good deal for the price. I think that the price is so low really only because it's not a very well-known company. So it might be, you know, good to get in on one when you can before they get popular. I think that they might get more popular. Like I said, I've seen them relatively frequently on Reddit, but you don't see them a whole lot elsewhere. And I do think that this is a really good knife, a good deal for the price with the materials, as long as you don't care about being made in China, which I don't. You know, it's a whole thing to unpack that I don't think is worth unpacking in a video like this, because I have enjoyed carrying and using the knife, and that's what matters to me. So if you're interested in Asher knives, if you're interested in modern knives that have a traditional type design, then this Asher Picket might definitely be a good option for you. I know I've enjoyed it. So as always, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. You can also subscribe to the channel and click the bell so you know when I post new videos. Make sure you check out my other social media. I am on Facebook and Instagram at Knife Thoughts, and my website, knifethoughts.com, where I post articles on knives like this and knife-related topics. And last but not least, as always, don't forget to go out and do good.